report them each time I see something like that. But over the years, the drivers have gotten harder and harder to identify. Back when Paul was killed, the city's cop cars were marked with large ID numbers on the door. Now the numbers are about a third of the size, often much smaller, in a narrow space over the wheels. But rereading Markovic's letter all these years later, I'm not sure what to think. He'd been terrible in court. He'd made it so easy to hate him. But in this letter, he's saying that was just a defense strategy his lawyer came up with. I've been trying to figure out what to make of all this with my grief counselor, Yvonne. I mean, he was like the boogeyman, essentially, in my family. Mm-hmm. But, he didn't serve any jail time. He just basically had community service. I mean, the sentence was the first, I think, of its kind, but it was just so insignificant.
Would you ever talk to him?
I'm trying to.
Oh.
Because I think I want to know that he suffered, I guess.
I mean, I understand. You want to hear him say, I think of Paul every single day of my life. And that every time I look at my son, I think how lucky I am to have the son, because at the same time, your brother died. That's what we want to hear that guy say. I would. That's what I want to hear him say.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I started trying to reach out to Markovic. He'd retired from the police force in 2019, and I got no response from his official police email address. No response to a LinkedIn message I sent either, nor from a home inspection company I emailed, where he seemed to be working with his son. I Googled him, but not much came up, other than an old local news website where he was complaining about noise in his neighborhood. The comments said things like, "Isn't this the asshole who killed Paul McKinnon? Shut up and die." I found out his son is named Alex, like me, and that his mother was named Stella, like my daughter. And I spoke to a former cop from the same station as him, who'd been to his retirement party, and told me that Markovic looked like a shadow of himself, that he'd just said a few words and then was gone. Eventually, I found out where he lived, and decided to drop a letter off at his house, asking him to speak with me. This is before I started making the podcast, so the sound's not great, but I recorded the drive on my phone.
I don't know this area at all.
I mean, we're just on the edge of the island, like literally.
My friend Steph came along for emotional support.
What are we doing?
I don't know, but I'm glad I'm doing it with you.
I'm glad you're doing it with me too.
I was nervous. What would happen if I ran into him?
This might be it.
We pulled up to his address.
14. Yeah, this is it.
Pulling in?
Don't pull in. Don't pull in.
Okay, here, I'll go here.
There was a long driveway leading up to a house that we could barely see.
I don't see if there's a mailbox anywhere.
It was pitch black, and there were no lights along the path.
Where's the fucking mailbox?
Well, it's probably like on the porch, which is
no.
Who knows how deep in there.
The only way to deliver the letter was to step into the darkness.
Alright.
We walked along the driveway. There were 2 cars there. Someone was probably home. I walked up the steps, dropped the letter in his mailbox, and we hurried back to the car.
That's scary.
That was super scary.
Jeez, that was like really scary.
Yeah.
That was the most scary thing I've done this year. I really wonder if he's going to respond.
A few days later, I got an email from the company Markovic seemed to be working at that I'd reached out to weeks earlier. It said, "Sir, Mr. Markovic has read all the posts, letters, and emails you've sent to him and his employers, but does not wish to communicate with you. Please refrain from further contacts. Regards. It was unsigned, and I haven't heard anything from him since. Then, a couple of months ago, I went to the courthouse to reread some of the documents from the trial. The clerk told me there was no record of them. I'd accessed them a year before, so I asked him to check again. But he said there was nothing coming up under the name Serge Markovic. He said the only explanation he could think of was if Markovic had been pardoned. But he couldn't confirm it, because by the very nature of a pardon, only the perpetrator and victim are entitled to that information. I later called the Parole Board of Canada, and they told me that because Paul is dead, I can apply to find out on his behalf. But they warned me the process could take months or longer. A pardon is the forgiveness of a crime. I know Markovic didn't set out to kill Paul that day, but I still can't wrap my head around how I could forgive someone who won't even speak with me. At the same time, what I've started to realize is that this obsession with wanting to talk to Markovic, with wanting to know how he's felt in the years since killing Paul, it's just another way I've been avoiding thinking about how I've felt since losing Paul. It's another thing that's been blocking me from my memories. What do you think of hypnotherapy? Do you think that can bring back some other memories that I've lost, or what's your opinion on that?
Well, I don't know why you have to be in such a hurry, for that sort of thing, because in my experience with people with trauma, it takes time to unravel. Now, I'm not a believer, I suppose, of hypnotism, because I don't believe this should be hurried along. I think it's a process. It's a journey. And if you unpack it slowly, it's going to be by far the best. But if you want to try hypnotism, then you'll see if it works for you. It could. I just don't know.
So I am on my way to the hypnotherapist. Gonna be put under, I guess? I don't know. I have no idea what to expect from this, but I'm open to it.
In 1,000 feet, turn right.
Okay. I've booked myself a hypnosis session with a woman named Christine. We've arrived, apparently. It's at her home in the West Island of Montreal. Hi. Should I take my shoes off out here? I arrive with a coffee in my hand, and she tells me to stop drinking it.
I just had like 3 sips.
Apparently, caffeine can interfere with the whole process.
I don't mind throwing it out. Is there a...
She gives me a glass of water instead, and has me lie down on an olive green daybed. And then I just get into it.
Like, I'm much... I want to remember what I lost. And not so much as the sadness that everything caused.
Yeah. All right, let's take a deep breath in together. Very good. And again. Let yourself relax.
She spends a few minutes inducing me,
You can drift off to anywhere that you want to go.
trying to guide me towards a state somewhere between wakefulness and sleep.
Let yourself leave your mind, drifting off. And we're there now.
Just see, I feel like I'm watching a dollhouse. The whole wall is open. You see multiple floors.
Have a closer look.
There's something, I just can't see what it is. I see Paul's face. As a younger kid than when he died.
Okay.
He's kind of like looking up now at me. Like a smile. Like a thrilling smile. Like he doesn't seem to really move. His facial expression doesn't seem to move. It's almost like a